Looks like a 5345 from back in the early days of SeaStar here. This cylinder is not responding well to getting bled or anything. I've already tried to I've gotten the air out of it. I suspect the piston's cracked on the piston rod. So right now we're getting ready to go ahead and remove the cylinder, and we're going to go ahead and pull through a new set of hoses too. These are original to the boat. As you can see, I guess back in the day, Outboard used to take advantage of the rigging conduit to get their hoses out here. Got some kinks right there. It's a little bit of a mess. So, first steps here, there's a little 14 millimeter or it's probably 9/16 tiller bolt here. We're going to go ahead and remove that nut, and then we're going to back the bolt out. I don't know if you can see that. There's a bolt under there. Get it loosened out, and then take loose our piston rod mounting hardware and our support bracket mounting hardware on the back, so we can go ahead and yank this thing. First, I'm going to disconnect hoses and cap off the cylinder, and go ahead and I'll cap the hoses off with fittings that we're going to use to attach to the new hoses and pull them through. So we're going to use our cylinder caps here. On the website we call these HCP caps for helm, cylinder, power assist. You can cap off anything that has the SeaStar fittings, and it'll hold pressure and keep it sealed depending on what you're doing. Now we're going to attach our hose pull couplers to the hoses, and we'll get back to this in just a second. I would normally be more gentle if this stuff wasn't all going in the trash can. If I was reusing any of these components, I would definitely be a little more cautious. So the HCP cap's got a little insert with an O-ring on it, and a collar. As you can see, it's really easy to work with. And then we're going to go ahead and put a hose coupler or a pull coupler on our other hose here. Keep everything nice and sealed off. So now our hoses are completely disconnected. They're ready to connect up to our other hoses, our new hoses. Pull them through, and our cylinder is also ready to come off. It is sealed up. And one of the benefits of the HCP fittings that you see on here is they hold pressure, right? So if you were ever testing for a bad cylinder, you suspect there's pitting on the interior wall of the cylinder, on the inside of the bore, which should be mirror polished, or if you suspect a cracked piston, which is a nylon piston on these, they do crack. If you got blow by going through here in the middle, you can cap off here. You should have zero movement when you cap off here because fluid has nowhere to go. But in a system where you're getting blow by and the piston's not functioning, you can get complete range of motion a lot of times, and that's your dead giveaway. You've disconnected everything, you've isolated the cylinder out, but it's got some play in it. We did just bleed it recently, and it's already got some play in it. You can see, not a ton, but enough. So now the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and take loose our tiller hardware. If you're lucky, you can get it on top and bottom of this thing. go ahead and get our jam nut loose there. Take 9/16 here. See if we can get on it. Speed things along a little bit. Okay, now our tiller hardware is out. So we're going to install a new cylinder. It's going to come with new tiller hardware. So now we're going to go to our main mounting hardware. So we're going to go with 5/8 on the piston rod here. 3/4 on the support bracket rod. Put our little puller on here because this baby's already seized up. And all this stuff needs to come off if we can get it out. One beautiful thing about the Allberry is this nice open transom, so we should be able to remove all of our hardware if we luck out. So when it gets stubborn like this, I'll take the cap off of my puller here, drive it in a little more, and I'm just going to take everything with it. This one was reasonably seized up, but not crazy. Sweet. So what we can see here is everything's going to be able to come off here. Might be able to move the whole thing without undoing any more unbolt. Let's give her a try. Let's give her that college try. Give this one a little hit with our 5/8. As you can see, our cylinder's capped off, so it ain't gonna leak. And since we got this nice, beautiful open transom, should be able to just remove all the original hardware. All this stuff's coming out and gonna be replaced. Yeah, nice. So we're gonna remove the old one. These are pretty tough, durable parts. I'm removing the old one because the new cylinder comes with a new one. So this is our new collar that came with our new cylinder. So what we're going to do here with this collar is right now we're going to run it in a little bit past flush, so that part of the tilt tube, you want the end of the tilt tube sticking out a little past, you don't want it flush. This collar we will adjust into final position when we go to the rest of the cylinders installed. At that point all we're doing is fine-tuning exactly how the cylinder is going to sit. First thing we're doing here before we install our cylinder is install our bonding wire, which the bonding wire and a little bolt comes with the cylinder. But once the cylinder is on, it makes it a lot more challenging to get to the bonding wire part. Okay, now we're ready to go ahead and go with the cylinder. Okay, go ahead and go with our tiller hardware now. So your cylinder will include a guide for which hole in the tiller to line up on for your motor. Do make sure that you read the instructions because they can vary slightly from motor to motor. All I'm doing here is just running our tiller bolt up just a little bit, enough exposed above the top of the tiller to give us something to hang the cylinder on. Okay, when you're installing the actual cylinder, you want to try to keep it as level as possible. Get that bolt into place without it binding on any bushings, things like that. It's real easy to blow the bushings out of the tiller plate on these cylinders, so be very careful with that. Just putting our lock nut on top of our tiller bolt here. Okay, I got our tiller nut is started. Tiller bolt is in. As you can see, our bushing's in good shape. Nothing got pinched there. Okay, now we're going to go with bushings and washers and stuff. Again, consult your instructions on this because the exact alignment of the bushings and washers can change from motor to motor. Usually, starboard side gets stainless washer mashed up against the tilt tube, a little thin nylon washer, and then your bracket. Usually the port side is going to have your two bigger washers. Well, they're really spacers, so stainless washer. You want steel on steel right there. Go ahead and get our bushings on here. I guess these are bushings, I can't remember. They call them spacers, bushings, whatever, but the two fat nylon bushings usually go on the port side. Now we're pretty much ready for mounting hardware. Our brackets here. Grease everything. Going with our 3/4 tilt tube hardware here. I mean, support bracket hardware here. Go ahead and get our bracket more or less where we want it. So these are nylon lock nuts, so I'm just kind of bringing everything in until it starts to bite onto the nylon a little bit. Again, you got stainless on stainless here, so grease is critical. You don't want to be galling stuff, especially the new stuff. So just bringing this in like this. In place, make sure our fit is good, make sure we got good range of motion. Okay, big washer. Three-quarter. bonding wire goes on the end of our piston rod here. Now we're pretty much ready to start tightening down. Kind of just hold that in place. Everything's snug down. It's good here. Make sure we're good here. Yes. Awesome. We are done with our 3/4 hardware. Now, let's see what we got for side to side here. So everything's snugged up, as you see. I want to see if the whole thing's moving. Yeah, so we got about a little over a 16th right there. So that's where our little adjustment collar comes in. So we're going to turn it counterclockwise, like we're trying to remove it, until it comes in contact with our support bracket. And the idea is we're going to take that last little bit of play out of the hardware. Now let's see how it does. Nothing. No movement. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, now we're getting ready to go on with our new hoses. So these are just your standard SeaStar hoses. These are not bulkhead hoses. These are just a straight run of hose. So it's pretty much the easiest one to work with. The biggest thing is this end goes to the console right here. It's got no strain relief. The end with the strain relief stays back here with the cylinder. Very important. The other thing is you pull from back to front. Makes it easiest. So, without wasting any more time, go ahead and get these guys coupled up here. Probably could put a little drop of steering fluid in there. These have O-rings inside the ends. So one other important thing when you're dealing with steering hoses, they cannot kink. So I'm going to go ahead and unravel this thing, have the whole length of it laying outside the boat, kind of try to straighten it out. You don't want to get it kinked. That's like a big no-no. So why I like these fittings is there's no tape and you ain't leaking hydraulic fluid all over the boat when you're pulling hoses through, especially in the bilge where hydraulic fluid can do a ton of damage. Okay. So now our new hoses are back here in the transom. We're going to go ahead and pull them into the console. So here we are up in the console. Here's our old hoses, and we're using them to pull our new hoses through. So obviously you want to be kind of gentle here. Should be about going through. Okay. So we were trying to be gentle before, and now we're going to be even more gentle because our new stuff is here, and we're trying not to beat it up too much. Okay. So now we're just uncapping our helm here. Because usually, even on a new helm, there's going to be something wanting to leak out of there. Yep, I can hear it. So what we're doing here is run the fittings down until they bottom out. Like you can see, I've already got this fitting down all the way. This one's close. Any excess fluid, go ahead and wipe that off. Oh, come on. Now we're going to put a 3/4 on them and just snug them up. They don't require much torque. Okay, and on the newer helms, as you can see here, the newer helms come with ORB fittings, which are much easier to work with than the old school NPT fittings, which you know, you could really only orient them wherever the threads started to really bite. You couldn't really orient them necessarily in an ideal way. So the ORB fittings, which they've been using for a few years now, make it where you can adjust your elbows any way you need to optimize your routing with the hoses, and then you just tighten down these lock nuts here once you get your orientation right, and you're good to go. Now let's go back and connect up at the cylinder. So these hoses are color coded, the little caps that come on them, you can see here. If you're attentive, which I was not, then you can kind of match everything up in advance so you don't accidentally rig the hoses backwards. If you rig the hoses backwards, it's easy enough to fix that. You just switch them over here at the cylinder. So right now I'm connecting up my hoses the way I think I'm good, but we'll see soon enough. So same as up at the helm. Don't have to go crazy with them on the torque. Your ORB fittings again, which it's lovely that SeaStar added these. Same deal on the cylinder. If your hose routing is different than the alignment on the fittings, you can back that nut off a little bit and align the fittings however you need. In this case, this was right out of the box and everything was already tightened down. So at this point, we're all connected up on both ends. Everything's bolted in, installed, and we are ready to bleed the system. First thing we're going to do is loosen up our bleed fittings. I'm going to make sure they're about a full turn opened up. Now we're going to connect up our cylinder attachment. Make sure everything's clicked in place there. Now on our Purge Pro, all of our kits, it's got a disconnect right here about 5 feet away from the cylinder. That is a vent. If you need to disconnect here, you can purge contaminated fluid and the return hose will stay sealed. And now let's go ahead and move up to the helm and we'll connect up there. Okay, most of the air is out of the system right now, so I've pushed the motor over to the starboard lock there. Get the bleed fittings pointed up. Just try to get the last little bit out here. Pretty close to being able to close the motor up, or close the hydraulics up and test. As you can see, I'm turning the wheel now. There's just not much going on. Disconnect. Get this last little bit of torque there, not much. Don't need much torque on here. Steering job complete. So on this one we got the new cylinder in, hoses, everything looks good. I like the way it looks. Throw some zip ties on here and we're done.